In this movie, I'll show you how to apply this blurry texture map in order to create the raised credit card text effect using the lighting effects filter. Last we left off, I was here inside the channels panel. I'm going to switch back to the RGB image, return to the layers panel, and press Ctrl-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to zoom out. We no longer need this layer of black, so you can go ahead and turn it off. And then click on the bar layer to make it active, and press Ctrl-Shift-N or Command-Shift-N on the Mac to bring up the new layer dialog box. Call this layer gray and click OK. Now we don't really need to fill the entire layer with gray because the text is just here at the bottom of the screen. So assuming you have your rectangular marquee tool selected, just go ahead and marquee a general area at the bottom of the image that more than contains the text. And then go up to the edit menu and choose the fill command, or press Shift Backspace on the PC, Shift Delete on the Mac, and set Use to 50% gray. Blending options should be set to their defaults, and then click OK. Now we no longer need the text, so you can turn off that layer, and you can also press Ctrl-D or Command-D on the Mac to deselect the image. And now I'll go ahead and zoom back in. Next, convert this gray layer to a smart object by right-clicking anywhere inside the image window and choosing Convert to Smart Object. And then go up to the filter menu, choose Render, and choose Lighting Effects in order to bring up the big lighting effects window. Now I've gone ahead and reset the default preset. That's not actually what we want. I just wanted to start from scratch. The next step is to click on the Add New Infinite Light button in order to add an infinite light to the scene. Then just click on that Spotlight 1 and click on the trash can to get rid of it. And now I want to assign that texture map. So scroll down the list here and set the texture not to original type or median or any of these other guys, because notice if I choose median and I'll crank up the height value to something like 20 just so we can see this text. And now I'll go ahead and zoom in by pressing Ctrl+ a couple of times, and I'll scroll down using my mouse because spacebar dragging doesn't work inside this window, unfortunately. Notice how harsh this text is. It's way too sharp. That's why we had to soften it using Gaussian blur. So with 2 pixels of Gaussian blur, things get better. But with 4 pixels of Gaussian blur set to multiply, on top of those 2 pixels, we get an even better effect, especially, it's very obvious, once you reduce the height value to something like 3. So just for the sake of comparison, here's Gaussian blur 2. It's just too flat on top. And here's Gaussian blur for multiply. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. I'm going to drag my light source around a little bit until I get a result that I like. And this looks pretty good to me. And now we want a little bit of ambience associated with the scene. So I'm going to crank the ambience value up to 70. That's what I found ended up working. And you want the color to be white. And let's go ahead and set both the gloss and the metallic values to -100 apiece. And then scroll up to the top of the list here to the intensity for the light and reduce it to 10. And you should end up with this effect here. So at this point, go ahead and click OK in order to accept the change. And press the I key to get your eyedropper. And we just need to test that this is 50% gray. So go ahead and click. And sure enough, I can see my HSB values up in the color panel. And the brightness value is 50%, which is exactly what it needs to be. If it's too high or too low, then you need to double-click on lighting effects and adjust the ambience value. Now we need to enhance the contrast of the effect. So press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, click the black-white circle at the bottom of the Layers panel, and choose the Levels command, or if you loaded D keys, you can just press Ctrl-Shift-L or Command-Shift-L on the Mac. Call this layer Contrast, turn on the Use Previous Layer to create Clipping Mask checkbox, and click OK. And here are the values I came up with. Change the black point value, the first one under the histogram, to 80, and then take the gamma value down to 0.65, and then take the white point value down to 155. And now, just to make sure everything worked out, click again with the eyedropper inside this area of gray in order to make sure the brightness value is still 50%, which it ought to be. And assuming it is, go ahead and hide the Properties panel. And now there's just one step left, which is to click on the gray layer to make it active, and then change its blend mode from normal to hard light, and you end up with this rounded raised letter effect right here. So far, so good. The only problem is if these letters were really raised, this bar wouldn't run straight through them like this. It would bend around the contours of the letters. And I'm going to show you how to pull that off in the next movie.